All right, let's get started. Thank you everyone for joining us this morning at our final Make Wahine Leadership event. Before the new year, tips to make yourself invaluable in 2022. So the first slide is a snapshot of our agenda today. We're going to be starting off with a morning yoga session, and then we're going to jump right into it. Please input all questions in the chat area, and we will revisit them at the end of the panelist discussion. We would like to thank our VIP sponsor for today and their continued support and generosity to our program. A big mahalo to Central Pacific Bank, First Hawaiian Bank, Hawaiian Electric, and Hawaiian Telecom. And here's a preview of our next year's lineup of our topics and dates. And I'm going to send it over to Colleen Makaluni, our Director of MCBL, to introduce our team.
Thank you, Tui. And aloha and welcome to everyone. Thank you to all of you for attending the Patsy T. Mink Center for Business and Leadership's final Wahine Leadership Series event of 2021. Thank you to our VIP sponsors and to all of you attending for your continued support of this program. As the only women's business center in Hawaii, the Patsy T. Mink Center is proud to support our local women leaders in their personal and professional growth and development. As we look forward to the new year and all it has in store for us, remember that the MCBL team wants to provide you with the relevant tools and takeaways to support your leadership journey. We're grateful to all of this year's facilitators for being here to share their experience, wisdom, and expertise. It's my daily pleasure to work with the MCBL team, Program Manager Tui Win, and Program Coordinator Krista Nishimoto. Thank you to the both of you. And now I'll send it back to Tui.
Thank you, Colleen. Now we will transition to our 10-minute morning yoga segment and begin a morning discussion as we center our mind and start off our day. They will be led by our very own aspiring yogi, Krista Nishimoto. And I'm going to stop my share screen and spotlight her.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Happy Thursday. We're going to be going through a really nice and relaxing yoga flow with some added breath work and meditation to start our day so that we get off to a great start. So I want everyone to begin by kind of just relaxing, sitting in your chair, shoulders relaxed, arms down, just however you need to sit to be comfortable. And it might be weird if you're in an office, but just slowly blink your eyes closed. And I just want you all to focus on your breath. Every inhale you take, inhale it in. And once you get to the top, just hold it for a couple of seconds and then exhale. So I want you to do that about 10 times. And as you do so, remember to relax your shoulders, relax your muscles in your body from your head to your toe. For those of you at a desk, I know you're probably clenching your mouth, so I want you to release the tension in your jaw, remove your tongue from the roof of your mouth, and just clear your mind. Focus on your breath, count when you get up to the top, hold it, and then release. Just gonna focus on your breath work, clear your mind, get rid of anything that you're thinking about doing later today, whether it's meeting a deadline or an upcoming meeting. Just flush it out of your head and relax. Continue to breathe for a couple more inhales and exhales. And then slowly blink your eyes open. I know that can feel a little uncomfortable in an office, but it's important for you to come back to your breath and kind of just find that calm and stability within your day. And after that, let's get started. So I'm just gonna position my laptop and scoot a little further back so you can see me. And I'd like you all to kind of sit forward at the edge of your seat with your hands on either side of your knees, about hip width distance apart with your feet flat on the ground. And then we're going to go ahead and kind of swoop our arms up while you inhale and look up to the sky. I'd love if you could just really reach high and high as you can go. And then on your exhale, bring your arms slowly down. We're going to clasp our hands together, but we're going to do this behind our back. And so as you can see, just going to kind of pull it back, reach your chest up to the sky, kind of shine your heart up. You'll feel a really nice stretch in your chest and your back. Take a couple of breaths here. Feel free to close your eyes if it feels comfortable. I always do. And then on your next exhale, slowly release and come back to your normal seat. Again, at the edge of your seat, we're going to clasp our hands again, and we're going to slowly bring that up to our neck, right behind. And then just really slightly bring your neck down so that you're looking towards the ground at your knees. And if your body allows it, try to squeeze your elbows close together while still looking down. You get that nice stretch in your back and your neck. Take a couple of breaths here. You don't want to strain too hard. You kind of just want to get that nice tight stretch in your neck. Continue to breathe. Inhale. And exhale. After you've done a couple of breaths, feel free to relax. Kind of roll out your neck, and we're going to do that 2 more times. So again, arms behind your neck. Slowly release down so you're looking at the ground, and breathe. Don't forget to squeeze your elbows if you can. And then release. One more time, we're gonna roll out our neck and then reach for it one last time. Focus on your breath. Take this time to just relax and clear your mind. One more deep inhale and exhale. Come back to your regular seated position, and then we're going to inhale one more time. Look up at the sky, shine your heart up, and then exhale. Next, we're going to again interlace our hands, but we're going to do this behind our back, and we're going to slide it over to our right hip or your left, whatever is convenient, and we're just going to kind of get comfortable. Make sure your back is straight and you're not kind of rounding it or arching it back. Just nice and straight, a nice comfortable position. We're going to hold here and breathe. Going to take a couple more breaths here. And on your next exhale, release, shake it out. And then we're going to go on the other side that you haven't done yet. So again, clasping your hands, bring it to the side of your hip. And if you can't clasp your hands, no problem. Feel free to just reach for any part of your arm and hold it and just breathe. Relax, let go of any tension that you have in your body. And then on your next exhale, let's release, shake it out, and we're going to go through that one more time. So again, clasp your hands behind your back and reach for that side of your hip. Get a nice stretch there. Feel free to loosen up your neck if it feels a little tight from maybe you didn't sleep well last night or you've been holding a lot of tension in your neck. Take a couple more breaths here. And then release, shake it out one more time. And then last side, just really stretch into it. Make sure you've got your breathing down. And then on your next exhale, let's release, shake it out, get the blood flowing Loosen your shoulders, and then we're gonna inhale one more time. Look up to the sky, and then release. Our next move, we're gonna be doing a seated twist. So with one hand, reach for the back of your chair, and with your other, place it on your knee, on the opposite knee, and just slowly find that twist at your waist. And if it feels comfortable, allow your gaze to kind of look right over your shoulder back here. And just really feel the stretch in your body. You can't twist that far, no problem at all. Just go until it feels comfortable. We're gonna hold it here. Then on your next exhale, release. And then we're gonna go for the other side. So again, one arm on the back of your chair and your other hand on your opposite knee. You're just gonna kind of twist your body with your gaze following behind your shoulder. Hold it here for a couple of breaths. Then on your next exhale, we're gonna release. And then again, kind of shake it out. Get the blood flowing. And now we're on to a modified seated figure 4. So gonna have you kind of take your knee and cross it over your other knee so that it's kind of like a little figure 4. Try to lower this so hopefully you'll be able to see. Oh gosh, not too bad, but just gonna keep your ankle right over your knee with one hand on your knee, other hand on your ankle. Kind of push your knee down slightly. And if it feels comfortable, feel free to slowly bend at the waist. You can do a mini forward fold. You'll feel that right in your leg and your hip. Slowly go down, down, down. You can also use your arms and kind of prop yourself up on your leg if you can't fold forward that far. That works perfectly as well. We're just gonna hold it for a couple of breaths. Slowly breathe in. Hold it at the top and exhale. One more time in. Hold it and exhale. Back to our seated position. We're gonna cross our other leg over, hands on either side of our knee and our ankle, and we're gonna slowly push, feel that tension, release. Forward fold if that's comfortable. If not, feel free to just sit up. That works perfectly too. Or we've got our little table here. Feel free to fold forward. Couple of breaths in here. You're gonna hold it. And then on your next exhale, back to our seated position. Then we have one more that I'd love for you guys to try. Take your one arm, just cross it over your chest. Really get that pull in your shoulder. And if it feels comfortable or if your body allows it, feel free to wrap that arm around your other in a modified, what is this called? A modified eagle position. Or keep it here, whatever feels comfortable. If you'd like, you can look opposite of your arm that it's pointing. So feel that in your neck. Take a couple more breaths here. And breathe. On your next exhale, slowly release, come back to center, shake it out one more time, and then take your other arm and swing it over your chest, hooking your other arm at about the elbow. And then for those who would like, swing that other arm up. You can even look up, you can look to the side. Get that nice stretch and twist. And then on your next exhale, we're gonna release. Shake it out one more time, and that is your 10-minute yoga flow meditation. I hope you all enjoyed that. Right now, we're actually going to take about a 5-minute break so that we can get our panelists on board, and we will see you all soon. So we'll be back at 9:25. So stick around and we'll get started with the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Krista. Feel more relaxed already. Actually, we'll be at 9:23. We just need a few minutes. All right. I feel more relaxed already after that. Thank you, Krista. That was much needed, especially with the holidays coming up. All right, let's start. Can I ask all of the speakers and to turn on their video at this time? Thank you. All right, thank you so much for our moderator speakers to join us today. We have Audra Donnell, the founder of the Thread Women's Leadership Collective, as our moderator for today. We have Ananda Ferreira, the executive director of the Kaimuki Wildlife Branch of YMCA Honolulu. We have Kimberly Haruki, the VP of Branding and Communications from Central Pacific Bank. And we also have Shauna Pantohan, the VP of Manager Enterprise of Project Management and Shared System from Bank of Hawaii. We're so glad to have you guys today to talk about tips to be invaluable for 2022. All right, I'm going to hand it off to you, Audra.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. We are all, I know I speak for all of us, we're all honored to be part of this panel and thankful to be here with you today. So as we were collectively talking about ways to be invaluable in 2022, we have to ask ourselves where we came from, right? 2020 kind of rocked us all. In 2021, we're all trying to find our footing. And now going into 2022, I think a lot of us are ready for it to be our personal comeback year. So we want to share with you our collective thoughts on how you can be invaluable in 2022. And if you're taking a look at your notes, you can see we have 5 tips listed out for you. We are going to start there. So one of the first things that we believe will make you invaluable next year is reliability. So for our panel, we're going to go ahead and start with Shauna. Shauna, can you tell us a little bit about how you can build a culture of reliability as you're growing yourself in your career and growing your team?
Sure, absolutely. First, before I start, I did want to thank Krista. I feel so relaxed and I think I'm going to start doing this on a daily basis. It feels really nice. I didn't realize how much the stretching makes you feel so good. And now I can say I do yoga. All right, so just kicking us off and talking about reliability and really kind of building a nice solid team, I wanted to share a story about a particular example on building your team. And I think the first thing to start off with really is you got to know your people and really get people who can complement you and empower them to be able to contribute to whatever space or whatever capacity that you're in. And a big part of this is really putting people first. And like I said, really just getting to know the human in your team, what matters most to people and what gets them going, what skills and background they have. And we'll talk a little bit more about strengths as we go forward, but just understanding their strengths as well and kind of like what they bring to the table. Part of building my team is really inviting them into a conversation where they feel psychologically safe to be able to share their ideas, know that it's okay to not have the same thoughts. In fact, differing thoughts and differing views and looking at things through a different lens is actually way better. And that, my sisters, falls on all of us to be able to create that type of environment for others. And so for 2022, I'm working on a strategy for my enterprise project management office. And I checked in with the team maybe a few months ago to kind of gauge interest in helping to contribute to what would ultimately become our strategy as a team. And really, diversity in thought is super important to me. And so I looked for what I call superpowers on the team, experience, styles, tenure. No one was too new to be able to participate in some of these strategy discussions. And I was really vulnerable with the team and letting them know I don't have all the skills and I'm not great at all the things. And so I really need everyone to kind of just complement me in the areas that, maybe I wasn't the best at. And that's how, I ultimately build kind of the team. This is still kind of ongoing till the end of the year, but the outcome is that you're really strengthening the talent bench. You're creating excitement amongst, the core group of people that you're working with. You're encouraging collaboration and really showing the team that it's not about knowing it all. It's really about contributing to a mission, and that as leaders, it's okay for us to be vulnerable and ask for help and look for people that will complement the abilities. And I think at the end of the day, there's way more follow through because people are excited and they bought into what we're on a mission to get to. And we're able to kind of rely on one another because we're working in a space where we do feel safe. We feel safe to raise our hand and we feel safe to say, I don't know. So that's kind of my thought around building the team and really looking at superpowers to kind of complement everybody.
Well, and I love how you shared a team's reliability is strongly rooted in the diversity of thoughts and the safety of the space. So I think we can all take from that as leaders and appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Kim, I would love to hear how you encourage your team to become trusted resources by taking the lead.
Sure. Yeah, I'll just build on what Shauna shared on the importance of team building. And maybe if I could just take a quick step back, looking at the first tip, being someone that follows through and is super reliable is expected of all leaders, and you will quickly become a go-to resource in your organization. But I think one of the traps, and this is, admittedly something that I face in my own career path, is that when you become a go-to resource because you can get things done, you often have a full plate. And so I think the transition in leadership is to continue to show that you can follow through and be reliable. But to Shauna and Audra's point, that elevation is when you're able to tag in your team, empower them, lift them up, and then be able to engage a group of people, mobilize them for shared success. And in doing so, you'll help to develop the credibility, the trustworthiness of your team members and the people around you. And so you're also avoiding the pitfall of having to do it all yourself.
Because as you mentioned, when you do become that go-to resource, you get a lot of asks. So I'm sure delegation has been such a key role in your career. Would you agree?
Hey, I cringe at the word delegation. This is probably just semantics, but I love the notion of empowering the people around you. So it's not just about, task management, but it's really taking it as an opportunity to uplift those on your team and those around you.
I love that. What a great mindset shift. I think we can all adopt that and delete delegation and instead say empowering others, because it's so true. So we talked a little bit about strengths. So let's jump into our second takeaway, which is determining your own leadership strengths. And I know, Ananda, we actually went through the Mink leadership third cohort together, where we got to jump into developing some of our strengths. So do you want to speak to how you personally have uncovered and discovered some of your strengths as a leader?
Absolutely. Thank you. And Audra and I are actually fellow Mink cohort leaders and together. So it's so fun to be able to do this with all of you together. So yes, we are through the Strengths Finder. It's one tool that you can use. And I think Shauna is going to speak a little bit more in detail on how to use that tool. Once you identify your strengths, what you want to do is be really intentional with your leadership path. Create your professional development plan. So, if you pick too many things to do, nothing's going to get done. If it's going to be, a book that you write on what you're going to do, you're not going to be able to do it. So pick, 1 or 2 strengths to focus on and follow the 70-20-10 learning model. Did you know that only 10% of our learning comes from formal training? Actually, 70% is through hands-on learning experiences through on the job. And 20% comes from coaching. So, identify who will help you. Are they supervisors, coworkers, mentors, advocates? Who can be your mirror and who can be your supporter? You might want to consider something called building your personal board. This is one of my favorite things that actually helped me. So, a lot of us probably sit on boards or work with boards in the past. And, the purpose of a board is to help an organization, right? But in this case, the organization is you. And so that's where, you kind of look at people around you and all their skill sets, awesome people like Audra, she's, I think, on my personal board. And, find people who possess the skills to help you and also are aware kind of where you want to be, right? And identify specifically how they're going to help you. So, the important thing in your development plan is that you set those SMART goals, that they're very specific and measurable, actionable. And then you need to set a cadence in terms of working on those goals. So, it would be great if you knew an executive coach that can work with you. You'd be surprised. People are happy to help when you ask them. Or it could be an accountability partner, somebody that's a coworker or somebody in your leadership cohort. And, you can go to happy hour and make it fun. Doesn't have to be a stiff Zoom meeting all the time. And the main thing is that this development plan is an active, dynamic document that continues to evolve as you evolve. And, you make it into a one-pager, post it on your wall. Don't be shy. Tell people about it. Tell your supervisor. Tell your colleagues. They can be your advocates and help you as along the way. And make sure that you're setting those regular meetings and you don't let it collect any dust.
That is so good. Chock, like packed full of tips. I was trying to discreetly write down some notes as you were talking.
I was doing the same thing.
I know. I'm like, I hope I can read that later.
I'll send you the Google Doc.
Okay, thank you. That'd be wonderful. What I like about what you said is, as we're building out our personal board, it can be a formal process for some, and it can be an informal process for other people on our board. So it just gives everyone the flexibility with what they're comfortable with who they have access to. And I think that's really important and valuable. So thank you for sharing that. Shauna, do you want to tell us a little bit about your experience with Strengths Finders and the value you received out of it?
Yeah, absolutely. So along with Audra and Ananda, I wasn't part of their cohort, but I was part of cohort 4. So in Strengths Finder, the session was actually one of my ultimate favorite sessions because it's so practical. Like you can literally walk away and take some really good, there's some really good nuggets in there. But we live in a world where perfection is so idolized, and you see it in social media, you see it in situations where you've got groups and individuals that are promoting cancel cultures. Many times we might even see this in the organizations we work for in terms of doing things right and being perfect. Sorry, you might hear some of my dogs barking in the background because it's Amazon drop-off time in my neighborhood.
You don't have to be perfect.
Okay, great. And then you see this even in Snapchat filters. And I've read some articles online that a lot of cosmetic surgeons are receiving requests of, can you make me look like this Snapchat filter? And Strengths Finders, you might be wondering, okay, Shauna, how do you tie this back to Strengths Finders? But Strengths Finders helped me at least to stop focusing on my weaknesses. In fact, it really helped me see that they're really not weaknesses at all. They're just maybe underutilized strengths that I need to be aware of. And so the best part was identifying my top 5 superpowers within the session and kind of taking the self-evaluation and getting very in tune about how I can leverage them. So some practical things that I was able to do that you'll be able to do in using, these areas or themes where you have strength in is in some of your resume building as you advocate for yourself, very similar to what Ananda was talking about in terms of kind of getting your personal board together and focusing on your professional development. But how do you advocate for yourself? What are those moments where you can talk to those strengths in conversations with people, teams, organizations within the community? There are a lot of professional development opportunities that can come from where your strengths are at and what you want to focus on, how you can kind of pay it forward in certain scenarios, and really is super helpful as I build and hire my team. I'm really in tune to what my strengths are and what do I need to hire for. It can even be used outside of work, for example, with your family or your partner, just to kind of help bring awareness and really appreciate an appreciation for like the value that people bring to the table and not necessarily focusing on what they don't bring to the table. A pro tip, I would highly recommend that you take the Strengths Finder evaluation every year if possible, because things may change based on external factors, maybe the role that you currently play. So it's always good to see kind of a refreshed version of what your strengths are. So that's kind of my personal story. And I would recommend everybody, if you've not taken it, to take it.
And if you're not familiar what Strengths Finders is, it is a book, can be purchased anywhere. Strengths Finders 2.0. I think Clifton is the last name of the author, and it comes with a code in the back of the book, so you can go on and take your quiz to sort of determine your strengths. And I have also taken it every other year-ish for the past 10 years, and my strengths have evolved over time. I've had the same core 3 and then some shift, so I can attest to that advice. So Kim, I want to move a little bit away from just the leadership strengths and talk about how we develop that into a leadership brand. And that's something that you're kind of an expert at. Will you share about leadership brand with us?
Sure. And I won't take any credit for this. Actually, this tip I received from one of my mentors. So shout out to Tracy Doi with Toyota. Actually, she encouraged me to think about my personal leadership brand. And it really starts with the question, how do you want to show up in everything that you do? It boils down to, how do you want to show up on a Zoom or Teams meeting? How do you want to show up in a presentation to the board of directors? And so I actively tried to think about the leadership qualities that are important to me and what I want to convey to the people around me. So just to give you an example, two of the attributes of my personal leadership brand that I strive to convey are not being a roadblock, but being a solutions finder. And then secondly, not being an individual achiever. I'm a mobilizer of people. And so when you have clarity on the leader that you want to be, the second component is just actively working toward that. I'm always questioning myself, how do I want to show up?
That's so good, so important. All right, we're going to wrap up this conversation on strengths. I hope there were so many golden nuggets in there. I hope you all took something. I'm sure you did. The third way we decided you can make yourself invaluable in 2022 is to be a collaborator. And I'll kick us off by telling you my first lesson in collaboration and relationship building was at my very first job. I was a marketing coordinator for a corporate company, and I'd plan client events. And then once the clients were there, I'd sit in the back of the room. And one day a partner came up to me and said, Audra, why don't you engage and interact and build relationships during this event? And I said, oh, well, these are all sweet C-suite people and VPs, and I just really don't have anything in common with them. And that partner gave me the gift of letting me know that I am a human. And so were they. And if I simply just ask them about their human self, then I can begin to build a relationship. So that was a really great lesson for me at the beginning of my career. Ananda, you have a pretty great couple of examples of how building relationships and collaboration have helped you and your organization in 2021. Would you mind sharing those with us?
Sure, and I can't relate more to what you said because, I used to get very intimidated. I still do sometimes when you go into, a metro boardroom and everybody's a CEO, but they're all humans, and kind of knowing who they are underneath that title helps a whole lot, and for everybody. Yes, I think it's really important. So we talked about building our internal teams, and that is so critical because we are so much stronger together than we are alone. But also, I think it's really important to be confident in your ability to build and cultivate relationships, up and outside of your internal bubble as well. I'm a nonprofit girl, so we're always out there advocating. And, the board is a really important component of a nonprofit. And so you need to know when to be able to call on the right people for help when you need it. So you're building all these relationships through these networking events, through volunteering, through just leadership development opportunities. And then, as you're talking with them, you kind of understand what makes them tick, what sparks their passion. How can you work with them in their passions? And when the time comes, align those passions and strengths with the opportunity that you have ahead of you. So, for example, when I first heard about this talk, I was thinking, oh, this is perfect because I'm kind of like a survivor. I've survived 2 layoffs at another nonprofit. I've survived my branch being on the chopping block, so to speak. But actually, I would like to change that dialect. I'm a thriver. And how do we thrive next year? So one example is, so our organization had been, looking at all of our assets, which includes properties. And I was a new executive director in charge of the Y over by University of Hawaii. And that had been in operation for almost 100 years. And it was a dorm. And you might even be familiar with it. It's the big pink building right across the street. And the trouble was, even though we had a slight net operating surplus, our reach was limited in terms of impact, and our buildings were falling apart over the years. And so they made the decision to sell the property, which was very controversial. We had a lot of folks, board members, our former CEO, upset about it. And of course, I'm essentially lost all of our staff team. And so it was a very scary time, and I was faced with the challenge of creating a new vision and a new strategic plan, which would need a new operating model, essentially operating a Y without walls and without a primary revenue source. And so instead of doing this alone, I asked one of our board members who is skilled at strategic planning and understood our cause and was passionate about it. And together we built a task force to put together and show up, like Kim said, in that boardroom and really pitch something that was inspiring to the board members, so that way they could see the value that we brought to young adults. And so instead of that branch dying like many others in the country before, it was actually one of only 12 university branches left in the country. It still is today, standing, and it's actually doing very well, thriving, and integrated within the other branches too, instead of working on its own. So that's something that I couldn't have done without the strengths of that board member, and also bringing the other people to the table, the diversity, and also understanding where our plan came from. I think that was a big part of why we were approved as well. So that's one example.
That's wonderful that you'd already built those relationships, so that when the time came, you had some ideas of, oh, I can tap into your mental resources for this. So just a good testament to building relationships. Before we move on to the fourth point, do any of the other panelists have additional thoughts to add to being a collaborator and developing relationships, optimizing opportunities?
Maybe I'll just jump in, Audra. One thing that perhaps is a tip for people earlier in their careers who are interested in moving up to management is, really finding those opportunities, whether it's a finite project or an opportunity to mentor a university internship program, just interjecting yourself or stepping up in roles such that you can gain experience managing people, even though they may not be your direct reports yet. I think that will help to kind of get your feet wet, is that, sorry, get some experience under your belt to eventually be able to manage people on a team.
Yeah, I echo Kim and Ananda's sentiments, and I also wanted to just say what resilience, resiliency Ananda had. Like, there's a lot of times where there could be times where people are just like, oh my goodness, this is it, I'm done. That negative self-talk kind of gets to you, and to be able to just be positive and kind of look at, the opportunities versus what's not working. I mean, kudos to you, Ananda. I think I myself can learn a lot from your story as well. So thanks for sharing that. Yeah.
Thank you for saying that, Shauna. Actually, my top strength is positivity, and that certainly served me well. So thank you for recognizing that. And I also will say it didn't come without its fair share of tears. Sure. But we made it through.
You made it through, and now you're thriving. I love that. So the fourth takeaway we have for you all on how to make yourself invaluable in 2022 is know the bigger picture of your business and your industry. So I just like to throw this to the panelists. Each of you have done this in your own way, in your own different industry. Can you share with us your tactics for becoming an expert or knowing the bigger picture of your business? We can start with Shauna.
Okay. So just to give a little background on kind of where I come from, I don't have a college degree. I didn't have the traditional kind of path that you would take. I had kids at a young age, and so I went straight into the workforce. And some of the more academic traditional learning was placed on the back burner because I needed to support my family. And so what I've done and kind of was just has stuck now to me is constantly being a lifelong learner. I'm curious, I ask questions, I read as much as possible on all things. And I try to read even the things that I would consider to be not as exciting, just so that I can have a taste of like what's on the buffet of reading and listening. And so I do my best to take advantage of anything that's free. LinkedIn Learning, I sign up for books through Amazon Audibles. I share with other groups and mentors that I have in my network on like titles or great like reading. It doesn't have to be an actual book, it could be an article, but I'm constantly on the lookout for just learning. And so it's that lifelong, like being committed to that lifelong learning type of style and really having that naturally and organically live within you. So that's kind of my tip that I've learned to help understand the industry a little bit better and really tap into even resources that are considered industry experts in having coffee with them and just learning.
Okay, will you share your favorite book or audible that you've listened to this
Sure.
year?
So Where the Crawdads Live, I think, or Where the Crawdads Sing. And then there's a book called Educated that I absolutely love. So those are like my top two favorite books. And then Brene Brown, all her podcasts, she just did like a 6-week series on wholeheartedness. And she does an inventory of kind of letting go of certain behaviors to foster better behaviors. I love her too. So
Yeah,
definitely a fan of her podcasts.
that's awesome. Good tips.
Yeah.
Kim, what about you? What tactics do you use to understand your business and see the bigger picture?
Sure, thanks, Audra. I'll first say thanks to Shauna because, oftentimes we're all, myself included, just chasing that next deadline and getting so tactical with our work week, but just reminding yourself to kind of be curious, continue learning is certainly something I'll walk away with this morning. So going back to, I guess, this tip, I'm kind of like rising above the trees, looking at the forest. One thing that I actively strive to do is, always consider myself the CEO or the owner of the organization in which I'm contributing to. And at Central Pacific Bank, I admittedly quite literally try to think like Paul Yanamine, our executive chairman, just because I think it is super critical to understand our long-term vision and how each of our areas can contribute to our shared success. But in any level of the organization, I think it is really critical and valuable to think about, what if you were CEO would really matter to you. That might be your highest revenue producing sources, your top clients. What are they worried about? What's happening in the marketplace and the business environment that could be a risk to our organization? These are things that we may not need to think about to get the top 10 to-dos this month done. But I think if we maintain that higher level mindset, we can all be greater contributors to, again, the larger organization.
Gosh, that's so good. Now I'm picturing you with Peter's head on your body. Like, do you?
Oh, Paul, not Peter. Peter, Shauna.
How about you, Ananda?
I love that visual. In the same light of the bigger picture, it's important that we take on broader leadership roles within the organization when they do arise. We have our certain areas that we're in charge of, right? And, the key is you've got your empowered team, which will then allow you to get out of your daily operations and into some of the bigger things that are happening within the organization. You don't want to do it all at once. You want to be selective and make sure that you're successful. And that will put you on the radar to help people to see you in a different light. see you as more than a manager, or see you as more than a director, see you as a possible C-suite person one day. And then, if you don't get the job, if you've applied, for a position, try to find out exactly why. So for example, I applied for the executive director position twice before I was selected. And, I was a very successful director. Sorry, not to, toot my own horn, but I was doing pretty well. And I had just gotten the shiny new MBA. And so at the time I was really frustrated and I didn't know why, So I said, I asked our COO for feedback, and he took me to lunch, and he gave me very, very specific areas that I could work on. What are some of the flat sides that I had that I could round out? And that then I took it into my development plan, applied it, found the people to help me along the way, and kept working on them until I was, the right person for the job. So always ask for specific feedback. I find that really helpful. And not only will it help your personal development, it will also make a great impression on that person or people in case they're on the other side of the table the next time you interview, or your paths cross again in the future and there's an opportunity to collaborate.
That's a great point. And as managers, having those difficult conversations too. I mean, I'm sure that was a conversation that good, but difficult, to have. It's never great to tell someone. I mean, it never feels like exciting to tell someone what they can work on, but it's so important to practice those skills on the other end too, which I'm sure you probably do now in your role, having had that modeled for you. So good job.
Hey, Audra, so not to nerd out on a book again, but so
Let's do it.
And like what Kim and Ananda are talking about, I'm like, ooh. So on my desk, I have this, it's called FYI. I don't know if you can see it, but it's FYI. And I have so many Post-it notes all over the place, but in it, it stands for your improvement. And in it are leadership, developmental, just general competencies. And it's a guide. It's a practical guide, and part of the book, there's something in here around strategy and kind of embodying that strategy mindset. And what I love is it kind of takes you through what strategy is and what kind of mindset that is. It provides you with tips and tools on articles you can read, subscriptions that you can sign up for to get regular communication on how to be more strategic. It shares what talented looks like, what underdeveloped looks like, and what kind of roadblocks. If you're overutilizing this particular competency, what does that look like? And it's been super helpful because strategy hasn't always been my bread and butter, where I sit naturally. And so it's been super helpful in kind of some of the developmental pieces as I've gone through my leadership career. So that it's a really great book.
Okay, so it's FYI by who?
FYI, for your improvement, and it's a Corn Fairy book.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay, FYI.
You can find on Amazon. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. That's awesome. I love the book and resource tips. So our last conversation piece on how we can make ourselves invaluable in 2022 is to create boundaries. And this one has been important for me this year as I've started a business, so I can speak to it a little bit. At the very beginning of the year, I had a mentor tell me, Audra, just because you can doesn't mean you should. So just because you are a competent, powerful woman who can hold all these things and be involved in all of these committees and projects and this and that, just because you can do that does not mean you should do that. And over the year, I found that to be more and more true, and realized that overcommitting myself was a form of self-sabotage. So that was a boundary that I needed to learn this year. Do each of you want to share a little bit about boundaries and balance and, that the whole perfection thing that we fight as women? Ananda, would you go first?
Sure, and I absolutely agree. It's important that you set your boundaries, because that also ties into your follow through and reliability, right? Because if you try to do too much and then you don't follow through, then that doesn't serve you well in the long run. I will say that it is important to do a gut check when an opportunity presents itself. Pause, sleep on it, and don't just say no right away unless, of course, your priorities have clearly changed. Like I'm having a baby, so I'm probably not going to be joining a board next year, right? Another board. Give it real thought and ask yourself, are you saying no because you're truly busy, or are you we often say I'm busy, right? That's like our default, right? And or are you just spending too much time on things that are not helping you to learn and grow, or are in your comfort zone? Are you saying no because you're afraid of failing? And as women, we often talk ourselves out of an opportunity before we even try. And so sometimes, so it's, for me, the gut check is if it makes me nervous and uncomfortable, I probably should do it. So that's something to kind of be mindful of.
I love that gut check. It's just such a good, simple tool that we can keep in our pockets at all times. The gut check of, if it is scary, then perhaps it should be a yes. And then finding out all the things that we're saying yes to that aren't leading us to where we want to be. That's a great piece of advice. Kim, what about you? I know you're a really big fan of boundaries, and you utilize them to be the best you can be at your work. So tell us a little bit about your tactics.
Sure. I'll start by saying this is something that I still actively work on, being able to say no. But one thing that I do put my energy toward is development of myself as a whole person. And for me, I believe, being a multifaceted individual, even outside of the workplace, helps me to be a better professional in the workplace. And so I have some hobbies. I love long distance running because I'm a crazy person. I love free diving and spearfishing. And I also started up boxing during COVID. And I want to be excellent at all these things. And so in order to do that, I do carve out time during my work week and on the weekends to invest in these hobbies. And so I'm pretty strict with myself and my schedule on being able to be excellent in other things besides work. And I like to think that it will nonetheless positively impact who I am in the office and for Central Pacific Bank.
That's so fun. I like how you laughed when you said, I have some hobbies. Like you're just going to hit us with them. Those are great. Great tip. Shauna, do you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, I would just say, just invest in yourself, whatever that looks like and whatever that means to you, because you can't show up and do great work without taking care of yourself. And it really comes down to discipline. Like as much discipline as you put into the work that you do, you've also got to put into yourself. So if it's disciplining by going to boot camp and being disciplined in exercise and eating right, doing morning yoga, whatever it is, you got to be just as disciplined in that space as well.
Okay, I'm feeling convicted. I wrote it down. So those are the 5 tips we have for you. As we wrap this out and before we open up Q&A, I want to ask each of you if you would share one thing that has made you invaluable this year. Kim, do you want to go first?
Sure. Well, the first thought that came to mind is the best advice that I've ever gotten, whether it was, turning the corner on COVID in 2021 or, prior and after. And it really is do the right thing always. I'm always focused on maintaining integrity and aligning my professional experience, my work environment with what really matters to me at a personal level and staying true to those core values.
Awesome. What about you, Ananda?
Mine is kind of a nonprofit answer, but actually I think it's applicable to everyone. And that is, if you don't ask, you don't get. And I think that's a really hard lesson sometimes for us as women, and I've been very fortunate to have women leaders in my life that have modeled this so well for me and challenged me, my mother being one of my first supervisors, colleagues, and mentors. And as I mentioned before, we often talk ourselves out of, applying for that position or taking that leadership role or negotiating that salary or asking for that support before we even ask. And so the thing to remember is the worst thing that you will hear is no. And oftentimes no means not right now. Maybe your timing was off, or you didn't ask in the right way, or you didn't utilize the right people to help you with the ask. You need to be intentional. You need to align your goals with what you're asking, and don't ask based on what's in it for you, but rather what's in it for them and appeals to their passions. So this wasn't this year, but I did negotiate my salary in the last 2 positions that I've held. And both times I was told, we've never paid anyone that much for that position at that branch before. And, I laid out all the reasons why I was the right person for the job and why it benefited them to hire me. And that included the bottom line, because that's what everybody always cares about, right? And then I went on to prove my worth. And so this philosophy can translate even to minor opportunities. So this is just a fun, silly example, but we had Magnum PI knock on our door, and they wanted to come film. And of course, they wanted to film like next week. And our organization moves very slow. And I was told, no, we can't get it approved in time because we got to get the MOU. Our COO was out of town, and I tried anyway. I'd even texted my boss, and was able to talk to our CEO. And then we hit a hurdle, and we thought we couldn't overcome it by the deadline. And again, knowing your resources, I knew the right person. I want somebody on our board that knew the person who could get the approval and time from our landlord within a couple of hours, and we did it. So our team's been having a lot of fun spending that money on necessary supplies. So, again, remember, the worst thing that you'll hear is no, and you might just need to adjust your timing or ask in a different way. And it's better to try and fail than not try at all.
That's so good. I think sometimes when we're making those decisions too, we weigh the value and the risk of, oh, how much time am I going to have to put into this? And I'm so, what's the probability of getting a no, when, like you said, that's just kind of talking ourselves out of just going for it. So that's super cool and a really fun example. How about you, Shauna? How have you made yourself invaluable this year?
I'm going to go back to Brene Brown. She's like my celebrity mentor, and she doesn't even know it. But she is a researcher, storyteller, and I think over the past couple of decades, she's really studied like courage, vulnerability, shame, empathy. And in one of her podcasts, she mentioned clear is kind. And I think this year, especially, I've been really working on, holding on to that motto. And it's really just about being clear with myself in terms of the values, what kind of centers me around whatever it is that I'm doing. How are you communicating with others? Are you clear? Is your vision clear? Are people aware of what you're trying to do? Are you explaining the why? Are you having those maybe uncomfortable, tough conversations when there might be some friction that is present? Because clear is kind. Getting clear with people is being kind, and not being clear, weird, is just not kind, I guess. So, that has been my motto, and really has helped me have conversations and have a voice at the table, because I'm trying to align myself with that particular takeaway. So that would be my invaluable lesson, at least for 2021 and ongoing.
I love that. And Brene Brown just came out with a new book, right?
Did she? Oh, yes.
I think it came out this week. So perfect timing. Are you on her promo team? I'm just kidding.
I'm not, but I should be. That's what I said. I'm totally she has no clue who I am. But I
see if we can get you paid for this opportunity. At least a free book or something, right? Awesome. Well, I think does anyone want to add anything before we wrap up and open up Q&A? Any of the panelists? Okay, I think we are ready for Q&A.
All right. I don't see any questions in the chat from the audience, but I have a couple that I would like to ask. Can any please share an example of how you position yourself for a potential promotion in the past?
I guess I'll jump in. So in a past life, I did my own career development plan. So not at CPB, but prior. And, I took it upon myself to draft out what I thought would be the literal job descriptions at different stages in my career. And this was like a 10-year plan when I was like fresh out of college and eager. But, you know, at the end of the day, I feel like it really helped to articulate to the CEO, you know, where my aspirations were in finding a place that would be a win-win for my own career fulfillment, as well as where I thought I could add value to the organization. And quite frankly, I think sometimes managers don't have a lot of time to put to paper in detail career progression plans for their direct reports. So it also, I felt, filled a gap that perhaps he would want to do if he could invest in it. And so it was very easy for him to agree to it and work with me on it because I took that first step in the initiative to develop my own plan.
Anyone else want to share how they position themselves for promotion?
Yep, I would like to echo exactly what Kim said. Put it to paper, post it, make sure you have it. It's not something that, you know, you stick away in a binder, or, you know, it's something that you look at frequently, and that you've got your, again, your either executive coach, your accountability partner, someone that's really helping you to make sure that you're continuously working on those areas that were identified. One additional tool that I found helpful is to also map out, you can just do a simple pie chart of how you spend your time today. And then in the same idea, you know, Kim talking about your job description, your future job description, what would your time look like in your future job description? And it can just be on a one-page piece of paper. You know, you put on one side now, on the other side future, stick it up there. And then, you know, that provides a really good visual example of, you know, where you need to go, and a reminder, you know, again, just because I can doesn't mean I should, right? Yeah.
I love that. I've never heard the pie chart. That's super cool.
Yeah, I would also add, as the driver of your career, I would share what you want to do with your leaders in the organization, so that they can hear and listen out for you, right? If opportunities come up, they'll say, hey, Ananda mentioned that she'd like to do this, or this is how she wants to spend her time in the future. And they can kind of look out for you and share potential opportunities that might come up.
I have a question from the audience. You all reference your mentors a lot throughout the presentation. How do you identify good mentors, and how do you ask him or her to be your mentor?
I love this question. I'll go first because I'm not shy in asking. So my first mentor that I asked was actually a wife of a board member, and we were working on a fundraiser together, and we were on a project together, and she was in a totally different field than I was. She worked in the medical field, but she was a strong, independent entrepreneur, and she was really just somebody that I admired so much. And so, you know, after volunteering together, we were there till the 11th hour, you know, printing out papers, or I don't know what, you know, getting the place set up for the silent auction. I said, would you be willing to mentor me? And she was like, yes. And come to find out, she actually is an executive coach. She was a coach for the Amidyar Fellows program. So I really scored on that one, you know, and she did it for me for free, happily. The main thing, though, I would say is that the mentor-mentee relationship is driven by the mentee. So don't expect the mentor to just set your meetings. And, you know, some mentors will. But again, you've got that leadership development plan. You're in charge of that plan. You're in charge of the schedule. Make sure you're following through also with your mentor. If your mentor gives you advice, take it to heart and work on that advice. Otherwise, the next time you meet with that person, you know, they may feel like their time's not valued too. So.
That's awesome. Did you have anything to add, Shauna, about mentors?
Yeah, I was, but I wasn't sure if we had enough time. So I was like, it doesn't have to, we don't have to. But,
we do.
Okay. I was going to say, sometimes mentorships can be formal, and then you can have some informal ones as well, where people that you've just kind of connected with by work or by engaging in some sort of volunteer community event. naturally just become the person that you lean into or you lean on. And it kind of develops naturally. So there are two pieces of that. There's a more formal kind of ask and request, and then there's this organic type of relationship that also tends to happen. So don't get nervous or don't be afraid of, oh my gosh, I don't officially have a mentor. Kind of take an inventory of your circle today and identify, like, who would you consider someone that you would want to get advice from, right? Who are the people that are in the ring with you, not the spectators around you, but who are those people that you're going to lean on? So that might be a good first step to kind of identifying where you're at and then what you need to do after.
One more thing to add along those lines is, there's mentors, there's coaches, and there's advocates, and there's definitely value for all three. So a mentor is going to give you advice, right? A coach is going to help you to figure out for yourself what your next steps will need to be. And then your advocate is the one that's going to help you open those doors for you when you need them. And so it's definitely helpful to have all three types of people on your personal board.
All right, moving on to the next question. How do you develop relationships with people you don't currently know, but to help you with your development and growth? It seems more challenging now in the current virtual world.
Maybe I'll jump in with a personal example. So I'm active in a nonprofit organization, the U.S.-Japan Council, which is a nonprofit, but we're based globally, particularly throughout the States and in Japan. But for me, it was about identifying an organization that comprised of people that I would like to get to know better or be part of their network. And for the U.S.-Japan Council, it was, tri-sector, public, private, government, and nonprofit professionals throughout the globe that I was interested in being closer connected to. And so it's about, I think, identifying a quote unquote target rich environment for the kinds of people that you want to surround yourself with. And then through that organization, unearthing opportunities such that you can find relationships and connectivity through already being part of the same organization. And actually through the U.S.-Japan Council is where I was paired with my mentor, Tracy Doi from Toyota North America. And quite frankly, there'd likely be no opportunity that I could be paired with her. She's CFO for Toyota. And if it weren't for my pursuit of U.S.-Japan Council, I would have never had that opportunity.
I've also found just reaching out. I mean, you're right, Kim. I mean, there's going to be certain people that you want to connect with, that's a great route. And then sometimes you might be surprised if you just reach out on LinkedIn or digitally, any way you're connected. I've had a lot of success over the past year with a lot of people that surprised me in response to my random reach out. And I was just authentic and told them who I was, what I was up to, and why I wanted to connect. And just wasn't scared to do that initial reach out, because like Ananda said, the worst I could hear was no or nothing.
Yeah, the only thing I will add is, I know we're on Zoom a lot in these times. And so if you can find a way to shrink it where you're on a committee or something, that way you're going to develop deeper relationships. And then when you're on the bigger Zoom, take the few moments to write little personal chat messages to those people. It's great to see you, get to know them. Kim, how's the diving going, right? And that will help you to build that rapport, which then when you are ready to make that ask, it'll make it a lot easier.
That's a great idea.
In the spirit of just because you can does not mean you should, could you share a best practice where you have to delegate to your team?
I can share because I'm also guilty of being, a go-to person, which includes, we've got a lot of things happening here at the Y at all times, and we're oftentimes short-staffed, and you know, our directors are running around trying to figure things out. And, you know, I have been guilty of, you know, being like, okay, if you need me, I'll go work at the A+ site for you, or I'll lifeguard, sure. But then when you're lifeguarding, you're not doing big things like getting grants and you know, steering the why. So actually, I've been, my doctor has put me on a medical, you know, basically light duty during my pregnancy. And that's been such a blessing in disguise, because I've literally been like, you know, I can't. And it's been amazing what we've been able to accomplish since then. Our team is so much more empowered, I would say. And also, we've got some really exciting things in the works for the Y, not only for our branch, but for the association to help Kupuna. So, you know, physically, I wasn't able to do it, so that stopped me. But, you know, better to find another way besides just having a doctor's note.
I've asked, I have one team member right now, and I've asked her to just share with me if she sees me doing anything in the details. She knows I want to be, she knows on my pie chart where I want to be. So if she sees me doing things in the pie chart section that I don't want to be doing, if she feels like she can own them and wants to own them, I've just, you know, asked her to bring that to me. And I follow up with her on a regular basis as we're debriefing events or projects, and ask, is there anything in there that I could have given you ownership of? I will admit, Kim, I said, I did say delegated, but in the future, I'm going to say, is there anything in there that I could have given you ownership on, or anything that you wanted to own that I was doing? So just having an accountability right there, and like you ladies mentioned, letting her know my goals for my time, that has been a really helpful accountability measure.
Yeah, if I could just jump in, one thing that I've experienced myself is with regard to delegation is that, you know, I think it's like human nature to think that if I don't do it myself, I'm not being a high performer, or I'm not contributing to the best of my abilities. But it's really important to recognize that if I were to do a certain task, is that really the best use of my time? And if I did it, am I actually hurting the team and the organization because I'm not doing my highest level thinking? And so in that way, I'm still putting the organization and the team first. And that's one thing. And then the second thing goes back to Shauna's earlier point about knowing the competencies of your team, and then also where you want to take your team and the individuals, so you can pair the right person for the right job and help them with this project or assignment as a part of their own development.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Kim, because like I think we all feel like, oh no, if I don't do it, then that's a bad on me. And I've learned from my team who have told me, Shauna, you're so busy. Like, let us do it. Like, we want to do it. And I'm like, oh, you want to do it? So you just never know, right? What you could be keeping away from the team or the people around you that they want to do and potentially even learn. So I have to remind myself, like, it's not about not being able to do it. I could do it. We could do it. But is it the right thing to do? Because we shouldn't be doing everything. We should really be, to Kim's point, and even Audra and Ananda have mentioned this, is like focusing on the right things to invest our energy on.
I am going to take away that mindset shift. I love just shifting my mindset from delegating to thinking, you know, can I be supporting my organization at a higher level by giving ownership to someone else on this? So that's just a mindset shift, I think, at the core of it.
Absolutely. The only thing oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just about to say, if we have any final thoughts, we can start wrapping up.
Just one more thing I'll add is that we're basing this off of, you know, the assumption that our teams are happy, healthy, high functioning teams. So that comes with a lot of work. And remember that, you know, teams go through a process, you know, they form and they storm, where you're kind of working out all of your differences. Then you kind of get into a norming where you're like, okay, we're in the works. Then you're performing, and that's where you want to be at, right? So when you get into that high performing team, and you know, you're confident, everybody understands and is bought into their role, and their superpowers, like Shauna said, are highlighted, and they're thriving, and they're on the right in the right seats on the bus together. That's really where you want to be.
Any final thoughts? I don't see any more questions.
Thank you again for letting us spend the time with you today. I think we all enjoyed it, and I know I enjoyed the conversation with you ladies.
I'm going to share my screen. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here today. Thank you to our sponsors, our speakers, our moderator for sharing your time. We greatly appreciate this, and I can speak for myself that I feel like I'm more prepared, more prepared for next year, and a little bit better in my career. So thank you so much for that. Next, so we have our upcoming Mink Wahine series. It's going to be February 3rd from 12 to 1 next year on recruitment and retention, and during an era of the Great Resignation. So it's definitely relevant. And we'll be sending a follow-up email as well with the survey for today's session and VIP packages for 2022. So thank you so much for everyone's continuous support and generosity in keeping us going. And other than that, that concludes our session today. Thank you, ladies. And yeah.